everybody. Welcome to Questions with Mike. My name's Crist, and I'm Mike's public relations captain, and I'm going to be interviewing Mike today and asking him today's question. So are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. So today's question is, how did you get to that place where your soul was actually subjected to your spirit and you weren't being ruled by your emotions all the time in your day-to-day life?
Nice. Yeah, I've arrived. I've gotten the badge and it never happens
Yeah,
anymore.
for sure.
For the record, disclaimer, I still experience moments where, an emotion gets the best of me or a thought that's not from the Lord that's running around for a while. Like, that happens sometimes. You know what I mean? It's definitely way more infrequent than it ever used to be and nowhere near as heavy either, which is a huge win for sure. I definitely experienced victory and breakthrough. I've experienced a huge shift from what used to be normal, right?
Sure.
So, that being said...
So that shift, tell us about that.
Right. I guess, firstly, when I first discovered that I could have thoughts or feelings that weren't mine, that didn't originate from my being or my spirit, that the enemy could actually participate on that level in my experience inside. That changed the game for me. And it wasn't like, I think this is happening. It was like this epiphany, this revelation moment where it just, the veil got pulled back and I realized what was going on. I was like, it was like the Lord, I think, sovereignly stepped in and was like, hey, just so you know, this is what's happening. I was like,
right.
And it changed everything for me, and then I couldn't go back. It wasn't like, you know what, I think this might be what's going on. I want to try and help other people figure out if that's true too. It was like, oh my gosh, this is what's going on, and people don't know. And I got to help them figure that out because it's ruining our lives. It was ruining mine, you know what I mean? So I think that was a huge defining moment, which I don't know how to give that away necessarily, but I can speak from that place and what happened, and obviously describe, delineating from there how that plays out. I realized that I was having this thought or this that came with feelings and desires, that I didn't matter, that I wasn't going to measure up to anything, that I didn't have any friends, people didn't care about me. It was that kind of a thing. And once I woke up to the possibility of being influenced from that place, and then I started recognizing patterns, it started becoming even more obvious that this isn't about me. This isn't me, you know what I mean? And we just kind of function like radios, tuning into a certain frequency, and depending on the dial, where you tune in, that's going to be the song that comes out of you. And you want the song that comes out of you to be the Lord's song. There's a certain channel he's on, right? If you want to flip over to the other stations, you can, but you'll just have some other stuff coming out of you. You know what I mean? So if we're pulling from, pulling is the wrong word. If we're tuning into love as, the thing that's motivating us, or that we're allowing to inform us of what's true, then the song that comes out is beautiful and divine and will be the nature of God. If we tune into rejection or self-hatred or fear or whatever, then the song that comes out is going to be according to the nature of that spirit, right?
Yeah.
Which will play out on the instrument that you are, in your thoughts, in your feelings, in your desires, right? That's what happens. So as I started to recognize the patterns from that understanding, it became more and more established and obvious. But it wasn't just a mental analysis, right? It actually came from choices that I was making. You guys, when you make a choice according to what's true, even if you feel like something is a different direction you want to go in, and you know it's not true, and you choose to go with the truth in spite of the feeling, the more you do that, the more that spirit influencing you actually loses its ability to persuade you. And the more your resolve with the truth gets established, and then that's where the scripture, when Jesus talks about, if you hold to my teachings and you really are my disciples, then you'll know the truth will set you free, meaning you'll no longer be subject to the prince of the power of the air. You're not going to be run by his ideas of what's true or what's real, and you won't get stuck on that stuff. So practically it looks like self-awareness, paying attention to what is happening inside. So some people don't want to do that. They don't think about their motives or their thoughts or their emotions. I don't know why they don't, but they don't. It's just not a practice. And so then when I ask them, what are you thinking? Or what's the feeling there? They don't have words. They're like, I don't like it. I'm like, okay, what is it, right? Sometimes people legitimately don't have answers for that, or articulation, because they don't have that practice. Self-awareness is such a powerful practice. I'm not talking about introspection or self-consciousness. I'm talking about being aware of what is happening inside of you, right? I'm not looking for evil. I'm not looking for what's wrong. I'm paying attention to what is playing underneath all this. And when you have a grid for that stuff and you can start tracking what it is, good or bad, doesn't matter. You can just know what it is. Then you're able to start pulling on some other triangulating pieces, like logic, like reason, like plumb lines, atmospheres, that kind of stuff. You can start triangulating, if you will. Is this thing true? Does this line up? Does this make sense? Is this appropriate? Does it fit or does it not? And if it doesn't, what's missing? And you kind of scientifically work your way back from there. That's the eisethesis part of discernment, right? The natural, your moral and logical and reasonable faculties, like kind of processing from an analytical place, is this true? Super helpful. If you're not self-aware, that's going to be really difficult to do. You also want to pay attention to the effect that you're having on other people. Do people want to hear what you have to say? Are they open to your influence? Are they enjoying your presence? Or is there the opposite of that? Some of us are too deluded and biased to even recognize those symptoms, but if you can let go of your own, what the narrative needs to be that you want in your life, and you're willing to look at what actually might be happening, and you notice patterns, you can recognize, you know what? People seem to not want to hang out with me for very long. We have a chat for about 2 minutes and then they're out. And that seems to be a pattern. People can't seem to stick around with me for any sustained amount of time. Why is that? Is that normal? I wonder if it is. And so I'll ask other friends, hey, if you talk to people, can you talk to people longer than 5 minutes and they still want to talk? And they're like, yeah. And you start finding that's normal for most other people. You're like, yeah, it's not normal for me. Okay, something's wrong. You know what I mean? You're logically working out what's going on here. And so you're starting to just map out your own world and how the people around you are responding to what is probably coming from that place, right? So I did a lot of like trial and error, a lot of research. I think that's a lifestyle of mine, is continuing to like explore my curiosity and like wanting to figure out what is or is not going on, and then based on what is knowable, I can move forward from that informed place and make more informed decisions, right? And then whatever. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
So what would you say to the people that are watching that are like realizing, oh, I'm not aware of any of this stuff? Like, what would you give them as like a starting point to like start exploring this?
Yeah, so like coaching clients I have sometimes, like when I used to take clients, like if self-awareness was like, or their emotional intelligence was really low and they just weren't aware of what was going on inside, sometimes I would give them a homework assignment where like throughout the next week between our next sessions, I'm like, I want you to get out a journal on your phone or whatever, however it is you keep track of this, and legitimately, every time you have an emotion, write down what it is. What is it? What did you feel? And finding words for that. And there are even some like emotion wheels or whatever on Google that you can like pull up and just look at to give you a menu to choose from. Do you feel hurt? Do you feel betrayed? Do you feel angry? Like, what's the feeling here? Are you happy? Or do you feel trusted? Do you feel empowered? Like, it's giving you lots of different words to describe an energetic, emotional experience. And so I want them to practice learning to identify the emotion, and then from there, as we build this competency, this awareness, we then start pulling in like elements of, okay, when did you feel that? Why did you feel it? Did something happen? Did something not happen? Was there a conversation? Was there an event, a circumstance? Then they start kind of tracking their environment, right? And we start building from that place. If they're totally unaware, we'll start there, which to me feels really rudimentary, but if they don't have that in place, like it's hard to move forward in other places. So I would start there. If you're totally missing an awareness of that, literally outside of yourself, if it's important enough, do the work of writing down, keeping track. What are you feeling? What is it? Can you name it? And then, do you know where it came from? When did it happen? Do you know why? And you don't have to get it right every time. You don't have to get it right any of the time. Just start paying attention. The more you start looking and bringing your attention to it, the more things will start to reveal themselves to you.
Yeah.
Things will clarify.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. And I think just with people, when they're exploring that, like a lot of people are like, okay, I got to figure this out. But actually going, no, you can be diligent. You can be aware and be open to it. But it's a combination of what you bring. And then the Lord is going to reveal that to you. And it's going to naturally happen because that's what your spirit is. Your soul was made to be subject to your spirit.
Totally. Yeah, and like your mind is governed by spirit, right? So if you recognize the spirit of your mind, like if your mind is looking for what's wrong, if your mind is looking for what's missing or what could be a problem down the road, the spirit of your mind is already bent toward destruction.
Yeah.
Your mind shouldn't be bent that way, right? Your mind should be looking for the ways things are going to go right, the ways that you're going to be taken care of, the ways that the Lord has already provided for you. That's a totally different operating system, right? It's the same mind under a different spirit. So you want to get your mind to a place where you're actually opening yourself up to, I want to see what's true, what's right, what's good, what's lovely, what's pure, what's noble, what's of good report, right? What's excellent, what's praiseworthy. I want my mind to look for those things.
Yeah.
You might have to force yourself externally, repeatedly to do that before it becomes natural, but you can train your mind to shift what's normal for it, to start learning to look for what's right, what's good, what's true, right? And so I know that for me, that was definitely a practice I had to embrace, and the motivation was, I'm tired of living small, I'm tired of running into the same problems, I'm tired of feeling out of control, I'm tired of feeling disconnected. I don't want that anymore. So I'm going to do the work I need to figure out how to get out of this boat and into the one that doesn't sink anymore, right? Which is work. It's going to feel like effort. That's true. Understand that there's going to be some push at the beginning. Don't resist that. Like, persist. Perseverance is a value in the kingdom. Don't give up. Keep going. Find a better way. Find what is true and line up with that. It might be practice at first, but pulling scripture, declarations, worship songs, other people's voices speaking truth to you, like that stuff is all helpful support material, right? But yeah, there's tons of scripture, especially in the New Testament, of promises and things that God has spoken over you that are true regardless of how you feel.
Right.
And so you can repeat those things over yourself, remind yourself of that stuff, ground yourself in what God has said until that voice or that push can't move you as much anymore. It's the point where it doesn't even speak. Like there are times now where I used to struggle with rejection and like being super paranoid of what other people thought of me and like bending over backwards trying to appeal to them getting a positive experience and to think good things about me or whatever.
Can't relate to that at all.
And I was a slave to it. And it was exhausting and it was awful. And I've just worked so freaking hard all the time, every time I had a conversation with somebody. It was exhausting. And I had no idea how tiring it was because I thought this was normal. This is all I knew, right? And so when I started realizing that the Lord loved me and that He cared for me and that I just shouldn't have to work this hard, and I recognized that effort was not appropriate, I was like, I know why I do it. I want to keep doing it because like I get great results, but I know that me doing that is actually agreeing with the rejection thing. It's me hustling for something that I already have. So I had to force myself to not circus people and not distract them and not trick them into like getting a certain experience from me. I had to stop, which was scary and awkward at times or whatever. But as I continued to hold my ground that I am loved and I am accepted regardless of what they did, regardless of how they thought of me or whatever, the idea that I was lovely and perfect and beautiful and accepted continued to find root and grow and expand. And then I realized, conversely, as I passed through the test, if you will, of that little trial period, that people actually were even more attracted to me when I didn't need them to approve of me. When I believed I was beautiful and amazing, they were even more apt to celebrate me and to want to be part of it. And I was like, this is crazy. And I didn't know that was going to happen. That wasn't told to me. I wasn't given some like pamphlet and like a guide on how to make this result happen. It was me trusting that God was right and what He said was true and would take care of me. And as I said yes to that, sure enough, it manifested in my life and produced results that were better than I ever was able to manufacture. You know what I mean? And I stopped manipulating people. I stopped lying to people. I stopped working super hard. I didn't work anymore, and I got so much more reward out of every experience. It was awesome. So now it's normal. I'm super grateful. That was a practice I had to embrace before it ever got to that place. For sure. There's definitely work involved. It's worth it. Like, it's never worth it to agree with the enemy, and it's always worth it to sacrifice on behalf of the Lord, on behalf of truth, to like lose what you have to learn how to walk with Him. Worth it.
That's awesome. Well, great job, Mike. You answered the question really well.
Good,
we had a fun little conversation about that. Thank you guys for tuning in. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and click the little bell button to see when new videos come out. And be sure to tune in next time for our next episode of Questions with Mike.
Woo!